So as you can see, I have already started working on my really good friend here. Most of the time I use live models, but I didn't have any friends that wanted to be this festive. So today we're gonna go over a few things. As you can see, I've already started underneath. I have some of the green that I'll be using, and then up top, you can clearly see there's a little bit of red. Today I wanna show a few different techniques using all vibes. I do wanna say that her hair was darker than mine, I wanna say 2 days ago, and my coworker Michaela was nice enough to completely bleach her out for me. So we have this nice, clean, blank palette to work with our vibes on. So the three things that I want to focus on and have some fun with everyone today is we're gonna be doing a red, fully red root balayage color mount down into our green teal color. And then in her fringe here, we're gonna create a pattern and it's gonna go red, green, and then red in a slight prism pattern to flow down and just blend in with this nice fun holiday look. As we go on throughout the live today, if you have any questions, please feel free to put any questions in the comments. I am here by myself, so it's very hard for me to answer questions as I go. But again, I appreciate all questions, so please ask any questions in the comments and I will get back to the comments later and answer all questions. That being said, I really want to just kind of go through here and finish up working on my root section. And if you are watching, please chime in, let me know where you're watching from. If you use vibes, any vibes questions. So I'm working in horizontal sections and just applying my red, about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch regrowth, and just pulling the sections all the way back. Working back through. If you use vibes before, I love it because what you see is what you get every time. So as I'm working, wherever I'm placing anything, I already know how that's going to take. And anybody that's just joining us or joins later or watches later, again, we're going over a few techniques using vibes. The first being I'm just going through and creating a root. The second, I will go through and create the prism in our fringe. And then third, I'm gonna go through the rest of the head and show you how to interchange our balayage technique with using our Lanza films to help melt this together. If you have not used our Lanza films, I highly encourage trying it. If you have used our Lanza films before, give me a thumbs up, tell me how you use them, how you like them, anything like that. These are a big staple in my salon. But now we're just gonna dive right in to our fringe section. And I was just cut her hair this afternoon. So we want to be careful up here. Vibes, obviously, is short for vibrant, very vibrant. So if I was to over direct this hair back too far, it's gonna bleed. So I always will just take a little piece of foil and put it over top just to make sure that the color is not going to bleed into what I'm trying to achieve in the front area. Especially working on fringe. The fringe has to be flawless because obviously that is what they're going to see the most. So if you can see the beginning of her fringe here, this is where we're going to be delicate and start our pattern. And if you watched my live last week, I'm very big into working smarter, not harder. And a big thing in what I do is just visualize to what you want to achieve, and the hair will naturally fall the way that you want it to. So we're just gonna take our red, because that's what we started with, and that will connect the root color. And I'm just dropping a little bit. As you can see, that's a little over an inch. And then I'm gonna take my custom green color that I made with my Vibes. What I use in here is just teal and yellow. So as you can see, I've now created just another about 1.5 inch piece. And I'm just gonna kind of create or just use this pattern and consistently go down. I won't lie, my inspiration to this was my son has little elf pajamas, and this kind of reminds me of his little elf pajamas. Going through section by section, making sure everything's saturated. Coming back. And as you can see, very visibly already, we've created just a fun little Christmas pattern coming right through there. Always make sure you wipe your hands between sections. You're gonna get color on your gloves. And if you don't wipe your hands, then we can really kind of cross-contaminate the rest of our hair over here. Keep in mind, so our fringe section is going to come right through here. So we want to be mindful of our pattern, but also take the hair in the direction that it naturally wants to fall. So a little trick that I like to use there is we're gonna just use our comb at an angle, and that's where we're gonna connect the red. So these ones are gonna be slightly at a diagonal back angle. Again, if you're just tuning in, we're now working on the fringe area of our mannequin to create our prism look for our Vibes. We want to keep it consistent, so I'm going back through with the red, and if I can't see where I'm working, it's totally fine to fold that foil back. So you can either just work right with the brush and try and stay consistent with your pattern. So as you can see here, the red's going with the red. And now I'm gonna go back through. I have a little color on my hand. Make sure I come back through, wipe my hand. And always going back and cross-referencing with where the original pattern started. We've got our red, we've got our green, and we'll just quickly continue the pattern. If anyone's ever worked with Vibes like this or created this pattern, give me a thumbs up, give me a like. Again, I haven't seen a lot, but let me know where you are watching from. I'd love to know where you're watching from. And again, any questions that you're gonna have. So as you can see, we have our first connection there. So we have our middle, and then we have the right of our fringe. Now that we've created that, we're gonna just work towards the left side of the fringe to finalize that pattern. She also has a very stubborn part. I've tried a million times to change it. The part is there, wants to stay there, so if I've learned anything over my hair career is do not fight with hair. I will always lose. Now I'm just again taking my foil, and I want to start with my red. So I'm going to take my foil, my comb, lock in up here. Getting the red all the way to the root because we did create a red root all throughout. Now, like I said on the other side, it's okay to fold that foil back because we need to see progressively where the color needs to lie. Coming down through with the green. And then in these, I like to cross hatch it a little bit. If you don't know what cross hatching is, it's kind of just making little X's. And what creating those little X's is going to do, it's going to roll the hair back and forth. And by rolling the hair back and forth, we're going to make sure the hair gets fully saturated. So again, just checking with my brush, making sure where we need to be with our pattern, and continuing the color down through. And that is the very first part of what we wanted to do today with our holiday pattern of our red to green curtain bang. So before I move on, I'm just going to take foils and cover each one of these sections up, only because, like I said earlier, we don't want any bleeding into other colors. Now while I'm doing this, for anybody just joining, I just completed the first part of our holiday vibes, which was creating the pattern within our fringe. And now we're gonna move on to the balayage with our Lanza films, which are these right here. And then I'm gonna highlight in between. This whole head is just gonna be a combination of reds and greens and just having fun and going very artistic and just embracing what we are as a stylist and using our art and passion and visual skills to create something. So I'm just now going to lock in this final piece. And then, now we are good to continue. So now, as you can see, this root hasn't been covered yet, right in the front. So I want to continue with the red on the root. And once I get that in, as I just said earlier, the part is hard to the left. Once we get into that part, we're really going to get through and saturate this red. Again, coming through, making sure my hands are wiped off because this hair is very light, very blonde, and we don't want to get spots in there. So now that we have done the front, created the front, I'm right-handed, I work from right to left, so I'm gonna work on the front right quadrant and start filling in the rest of the hair. Also, as I said earlier, you can see I've already colored underneath because the goal is to have everything blend down into that green. So now I'm going to be just using a nice fun trick that I use with my Lanza films. I actually learned this from a good friend of mine, Jody Vasilio, who is a very talented artist that we have with us here at Lanza. And she taught me this trick. Geez, probably 5-6 years ago, and I've just kind of ran with it. As you can see, that foil did slip a little bit, so we can fold it up and lock it in. And since we are, again, working with these vibrant colors, again, we need the foil on top to make sure that we are not bleeding and creating spots. And now, in the front right quadrant here, I'm going to work on this nice color melt. So, if you haven't used our films before, what we're going to do is come in and lay the film directly underneath our section. Using the red, since that is our root color, and I just lost my foil in front, things happen, unfortunately. I've come down about an inch and a half. Now I don't want a harsh line, so I am just going to drag it down a little bit in a diagonal back. Then I'm going to come through with my green and saturate the rest. As you can see here, it is fully saturated. We have full saturation in here. If you see any blonde light pieces, add more color. Again, that's the beauty about using Vibes, is you're gonna know exactly where you stand immediately. Now, the beauty of using these films, it's gonna give you a very natural blend as soon as you put the film on. If you can, everyone can see, man, I'm dropping everything. I just dropped my Christmas tree. Gonna come up halfway up and then melt it down. And by melting that down, that locks in the foil. Christmas is still alive. The tree is intact. So we are gonna use that pattern that we just created. Oh man, my tripod is going crazy and I do apologize. A little technical difficulties here. Oh man. Okay. Sorry about that. And we're still moving. Okay. So now that we have our first color melt piece in, I'm going to take a section, just a nice slice, clip that back up, and this slice is going to sit right in between, and we're just going to use red. And we're just going to start creating depth within the section. So I do this a lot with my dimensional blondes, brunettes, anything like that, where I will highlight or low light in between my balayage sections. It's just gonna add movement and depth and dimension to whatever we're gonna try to accomplish. So again, I do like to recap as I go. Anybody that is just tuning in, we are now into our balayage and highlighting section of our holiday vibes. Now I'm just gonna throw another film over that so our next section does not get affected. And now that we have this over top here, we will just move on as we go. Taking a nice thick diagonal back section. Combing that out of the way, bringing that up and clipping that section out of the way. We're now gonna do the same approach, but we can be artistic and be discretionary when we want to place this. We can have the red come a little deeper, we can have the red come a little shallower, and start the green a little bit higher. It's all going to be based on what you want to achieve. With this, I actually want to keep the red a little more shallow, because on this side, I'm really looking for the green to pop. Now I'm gonna come back in again with my film right underneath, paint just a little bit more red on there to lock in the film, and then paint my green. Again, using saturation is a big factor. If you can really take a close look, if you see within right here, it's still pretty blonde, and we want to make sure that that all gets covered, because if that is not really saturated and really covered all the way through, then it's going to look a little splotchy. Again, same concept as we just used, taking our film, placing it halfway up, and sliding it down to lock it in. This is one of my favorite things to do. It just gives you a nice, soft, seamless blend every time without having to work too hard at it. So now we want to just keep up our pattern that we did, but I'm going to go a little thicker here. So if you remember, we're keeping up with the pattern. We did a slice of what we can call highlights with the red, just to add depth and movement. So I took a very thick slice, and I'm just gonna put red all the way down through. Something I do want to make sure people remember though is be aware of your pattern, because we want to make sure it's symmetrical and keep the same pattern on the other side. Quickly, we're just going to throw another film over that. And again, another beauty of these films is you can see exactly what's going on. See exactly what's happening and have a lot of fun with it. So now we can take this last section and keeping up with the pattern that we did. Again, extending the red root down into the green and blending with our film. This is a concept that we're really going to carry out through the rest of the head. But when we get to the back of the head, we can actually switch it up just a tad. So now that I've painted on the red there, again, coming up, getting my film in there. And now I'm using a diagonal back. Give me a thumbs up if you know what a diagonal back is. Because if you have ever watched any of my lives before, I really hope you know what it is, because I say it in every single one of them. But if you don't know, a diagonal back is, we've taken a diagonal section, and how you know that's going back is just the angle that it creates. So as you can see here, right at the top, that's where your marble would roll. If it's rolling back, that's the direction of your diagonal. Place the marble at the top, it would roll that way. By doing the diagonal back, it's just going to be more prominent red at the top, and then having the green come down and blend back. So now that we've created our entire look, we just want to finish up. Again, taking the film and sliding down to blend and lock in. But if you can really see right here, I want to go back through, because that piece right there is not fully saturated. And we're right at the front of the head, and we would definitely notice that that piece is not all the way saturated. And then we could just place the foil all the way back. Due to timing and everything like that, we will not be able to, I am so sorry about my phone stand today. It is not doing what I want it to do. But due to timing, I won't be able to do the entire head, because this pattern will be used throughout the head. I just want to make sure everybody gets all the ideas and the premises. So like I said, we've gone through in the front and created our pattern in the fringe by just going red, green, red, green. And then we've gone through the front right quadrant and done our technique where we do our Lanza films to help blend everything down. So you're going to just choose your root color, your end color, use whatever angle you like, place the film, slide it down. So we've gone through that technique. And I just want to show everyone quickly that on the underneath, we're going very bold with the grain. As you can see, I started before the live, but now I'm just going to go back through really right to the top of the occipital bone, just for a really bold pop. I want that entire section to be green. As I stated earlier, if you are going to over direct and clip, just make sure that you place some foil on top so that the color doesn't bleed through. So the last thing I'm going to show you is just the saturation of our teal all the way underneath and up to the occipital bone. So for everyone that's interested, everyone watching, and everyone that's going to watch later, I will be posting the before pictures of this mannequin here, and then I will be posting the after pictures, and they will all be posted in the comment section here, but also they will be posted on all of the social media that you can follow me on. Again, I've been speaking a lot about saturation, how saturation is key, and you can see a little bit of the blonde in here, and we want to make sure all of that gets covered. So now that we've gone over our 3 techniques, the pattern and the fringe, our highlights in between of our Lanza films and the Lanza films itself, that is what the final look and the complete look is going to be for the day. Again, I will continue to work and finish this for everyone, but I want to thank everyone so much for joining me today.